Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar conducted by Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing. As you know, at the moment in the world, even in Sri Lanka, there are many challenges. So how we are going to face to those challenges, especially as marketers, we need to understand the particular threats in the market and we need to convert the threat as an opportunity. So as you know, Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing, the national body in Sri Lanka, this year celebrating the 50th anniversary and SLIM offering many programs to Sri Lanka, to the nation, such as education programs, research, events, corporate solutions, and training. So today we are going to have an expert panel to share their views, and more importantly, they are going to share their ideas with you. That is very important, because at the moment, as marketers, even as laymen, we are in the learning curve. So you need to understand the reflections of others. You need to learn from the reflections. So this is one of the opportunity being created for the Sri Lanka. We will try to exploit the opportunities. As you know, this webinar, we have few discussions. We have few rounds of discussions where in the first round of the discussion, we are going to start to identify the self-reflections. What is meant by self-reflections? So everyone, we have our own reflections, how we already faced to the challenge. Then again, what are the marketing perspective of these challenges? And more importantly, what sort of identification we have had with those challenges. So where we are going to start to share our reflections. First, actually, I want to introduce our first expert, the Shalin Balasuriya. I think the Shalin Balasuriya is a director and co-founder of Ceylon. So he's first going to share his ideas with you.
Good evening to everyone, and thank you to Slim for having me. It's a privilege to share some thoughts with all of you listening to us out there. It's a difficult time, it's an interesting time, and it's a time that we as brands need to really focus on what we're doing if we are to propel forward from this. So what I'm going to share for the benefit of all of you all is pass it on from a retail perspective, what we've been doing, and some thoughts on moving forward from that as well. I think there's a lot of learning from what has already happened, because it's a very unique position that we got into with COVID-19 coming into Sri Lanka. Because generally, when we look at marketing, our team generally looks at maybe three things. What is the state of our consumer? Because you need to understand where the consumer is at if you're speaking to them and speaking to them effectively. Other thing is proper engagement with them, and the last, which is most important, is delivering and creating impact in their lives. Because if your brands or your services don't create impact in people's lives, they're not going to consume you. So looking at what happened when all this got started, the weekend was a Royal Thomian weekend, and right after that, next thing you know, we were in a state of lockdown. I'll be honest with you, and I think most businesses will tell you the same. At that point, we didn't realize how long this would take. We thought it'll be gone by the next weekend, but at that point, really, we didn't do much. We didn't do anything till it went to the next week. And then we realized, okay, this is going to last for a while. But what we did then was we started looking at what is the state of the consumer. And the state of the consumer in that following week was everyone was rushing to get food and their necessities. And in that state, we needed to interact with the consumer in a way that did not put them off, that brought them some sort of relief. So a brand like ours, what we went and did is we started talking to them about de-stress. We started talking to them about building their immunity through Ayurveda. We started talking to them about what they could do to ease themselves of the stresses that this brought in, not pushing product at all. Then came to the next phase. Now, by the next phase, people had settled in, got their necessities together, and now they were dealing with this whole lockdown process. People were frustrated. People were coming to terms with being locked in for the first time. And then we decided, the learning was, this is where people are, and how do we now interact and engage them? So engaging them now had to be a little different again, keeping in with the brand's touch points. Now we started doing workshops with them. We started doing yoga workshops. We started doing exercise workshops. We started going live, talking to them about skincare. We started interacting with them more. We give them multiple channels to interact with the brand without really pushing product. So it was conversations, making sure they were okay and looking at their well-being at that stage. Then that too passed. And then suddenly came a point where now people were there for a while. We were doing all these things to engage them, keeping with the brand touch points. But now we were in a position to actually sell product. There was online shopping happening and delivery happening, and we were in a position to finally get product across to them. Even at that time, the way we approached product was in a very different way to the way we approached product or marketing before. We started talking to them in the context of where they were. We started talking to them in the context of where their life was. We started telling them things like, hey, you're at home. You never used to have time to put oil on your hair because you were so busy. Why not do it now? Here's a set of products that allow you to do it. And we'll do a video tutorial of how you can use it. You don't have a chance to go and get your facial done. We'll send you a kit of products to do it at home, and we'll do a video tutorial so that you can do it at home yourself. So engaging people, depending on their state, in a way that they could understand, comprehend, and give value to them was what we were doing throughout the thing, right? So now we're going to the next phase, which is hopefully, fingers crossed, on the 11th we open up. And as we open up, we are looking at opening our retail stores. And when we do that, we believe the topmost priority that the customer is going to have is safety. So right now, our focus going into this weekend is going to be how we are fumigating, how we are making the spaces safe, how we're going to make it as contactless as possible when they're coming to buy their products. So at each point, what I'm trying to stress is at each point, we looked at the state of the customer and adjusted to that, and then it's changed the interaction, and by that delivered some value. So for instance, let me put it in another context. If we were opening on Monday and I was from a laundromat company, what I would be telling people now is, hey, you've been at home for so long, you're going back to work on Monday. We have a laundromat, we can come and pick up your stuff, wash them, iron them, have them ready for your work. Not only that, when we deliver, we'll give you 5 bags. And every day when you come back from work, you can take your clothes off, put them in the bag and seal them. We'll pick them up so that the germs don't get around your house, clean them and bring it back to you. So what I'm trying to get at is looking at the products and services you have and presenting it in a way that is meaningful to the consumer today. Yes, moving forward, we will develop new products, new services, but right now what businesses need to be doing is understanding where the consumer is, looking at your product and service mix and saying, okay, how can I communicate this that will be meaningful and effective to the life of the consumer? Yeah, so that's what I'd like to keep with you to get things going. So over to you, Professor, to take it forward. I'll end there for the moment.
Okay. Yes, actually, Shalin is interestingly discuss about one of the very important key remark where you need to stick to the basics. That is one of the very important thing. And also you have to always concern about the safety factor of the customer. Because if you're really talking about the situation now, we can see there are certain people come up with the innovative products. Again, people start to discuss about buy Sri Lankan and be Sri Lankan, sort of a scenario where there are certain opportunities are coming. So let me introduce Dr. Nirmal De Silva, Independent Director, Regional Development Bank, and he's an entrepreneur, consultant, and associate professor in business. Dr. Nirmal, over to you.
I want everybody, first and foremost, thank you very much for the Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing for inviting me and giving me this opportunity. Secondly, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the first respondents, the healthcare workers, the Triforces, the police, as well as the volunteers who've been doing a wonderful job to keep us safe and our country safe. Thank you very much to all of them. Professor Nalin, I would like to take this discussion in a slightly different angle. You talked about self-reflection. So let's start with there. I think first and foremost, from a marketer's perspective, the biggest challenge has been how quickly they can be agile and adapt to COVID-19. If you see how a ride-hailing service was able to partner with a state sector, largest wholesaler, in terms of providing goods and services direct to the customer, it shows that even a state sector entity with the right mindset, changes in the business model can work really well. So similarly, it's also about adaptability, and that's where marketing came into picture. From an institution that I represent the board, the Regional Development Bank, is relatively a small bank in comparison to the larger giants, but we were the first to come up with the mobile truck concept to help people to withdraw cash and so forth. And then the other banks followed suit. Again, what I'm trying to say is, from a marketer's perspective, whether you're in the state sector, the private sector, you still need to be thinking out of the box and be solution oriented. So that's the first reflection. And in my humble opinion, I think the role of marketers are going to change as a result of COVID-19. I think the designation of Chief Marketing Officer will have to change to Chief Mindshare Officer. They need to get the mindshare of the customer. It's a competitive marketplace. They need to get the mindshare of the boardroom. Most marketers, unfortunately, do not get a boardroom discussion, even in public quoted companies. So they need to fight for that mindshare as well. And they need to fight for the fellow employees in the organization. Because irrespective of having a good product or service, if you can't go and market it, there is no survival for that company. So jobs remain as a result of how tactical and how strategic marketers can be. So most people ask me at this point of time during a crisis, should marketers be specialists or generalists? My opinion to them is, I think they need to forget about both of that and they need to be solutionists. They need to find solutions for real-time problems, think out of the box, and come up with the right mantra, the right toolkit in order to survive first and then grow the business, because opportunities are going to be immense. We'll talk about that in the next few rounds. But I want to take 3 examples of industries that we don't hear that much, but who are also mostly impacted as a result of COVID-19. The first one is the sports marketing business. As you know, Tokyo Olympics is postponed to 2021. There is a good chance that the World T20 World Cup might get postponed. And how do you actually market this now? Even if the lockdowns are relaxed, there is a good opportunity that sports might be played or competed in empty stadiums. So how are you going to engage your fans to come back and be attracted towards that particular sporting brand? Similarly, the arts, the drama, and the cinemas are deeply impacted as a result of this. People have now got used to Netflix and IPTV streaming services. Can you, if you're a cinema owner, can you get them back into your cinema hall even after adhering to physical distancing norms? The third industry that I want to talk about is the restaurant industry. There are some very well-known restaurants who still not been able to, even after 2 months, adapt their business model to get deliveries done to home, while some of the other organizations, other restaurants have been nimble and agile enough to do it. So I leave it at round one at that thought, irrespective of your business model needs to be really looked into. Marketers need to be analytical. They need to make rational decisions and start adding value to organizations. Because end of the day, it's all about mind share and it's all about solving customer problems. Over to you, Professor Nalin.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Nirmal. Actually, I like this word called Chief Mindshare Officer. So that is another interesting point. Now we need to identify what are the like strategic windows being open at the moment for the country, and even we need to be very much empathetic for our customer requirements, and we need to think, and we have to actually see the customers not from the perspective of the customer. We have to see the customer with the perspective of human being. So that sort of a requirement should be there. And also you mentioned the role of regional development bank, where now we can see especially the government organizations taking their battle, and they do a great service in terms of supply chain, in terms of marketing and all. Thank you very much, Dr. Nirmal, for your comments. And then again, we have our third expert in the panel, Dr. Pradeep Edward, the Chief Executive Officer, Lanka Hospital Diagnostics Private Limited, Secretary General, Asia Marketing Federation, and Vice President, Private Medical Laboratories Society Limited. Dr. Pradeep Edward, this is your turn.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Nalin, and welcome all the panelists on board, and also thank you very much, Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing, for conducting such a great timely event at a moment like this. And like Dr. Nirmal said, I also would extend all my thanks to the forces behind backing this particular crisis which we are facing now, mainly the medical staff, the forces, and also the government, everyone who is going through a very tireless time in this given situation. Yeah, so getting some insights of how we have handled it as per the healthcare or the hospital industry. I think we got activated into this matter and getting proactive of how we can manage things was first when we heard this was spreading in China. Because the time we got to know that it was spreading in China and there was a disease like this, it was very imminent that, you know, that the flow to come to Sri Lanka or to spread to Asia would be quite fast, because there is so much Chinese tourists coming into Sri Lanka and so many Sri Lankans traveling to China. Then when we found the first Chinese patient, that was the time that, you know, we really took it very serious. We took it really serious, and, you know, we made the infrastructure in the hospital and our medical centers all over, the collection centers everywhere, in preparation for if there is a COVID outbreak in this country. So after all that was done, I think now it was announced that, you know, when the first Sri Lankan patient came, and, you know, it was growing quite in a normal way, but now there's a outbreak. But the only good thing that everything is traceable so far. So we have to congratulate the forces behind this as once again, because so far in Sri Lanka everything is traceable. So now, as marketers, what should marketers look at and what should marketers do is the question here. I think this is not the first time this country has faced something like this, and we are a very strong nation. We have gone through so many instances. We have gone through a civil war which has lasted for decades and decades, and we have come out of it beautifully. We have recently, if you take the recent things, we faced the Easter attacks, but I'm sure how the country came out of it in a rapid pace. Then also now the COVID crisis. So I think for Sri Lankans, I think the most positive thing Sri Lankans have is Sri Lankans have come out of these kind of situations quite quickly. This is where we will be better than the others, and this is where the marketers can be better than the others. even in these situations like the tsunami and extensions, it is the marketers who got the companies out of jail, right? So I'm sure these marketers have quite experience in this market to make sure that they identify the situation. I'm sure most of the marketers have already identified where they should look at. If you take currently the entire country, if you from our main, this thing is foreign remittances that come into the country, right? And the export market and also tourism. These are the main three areas that bring a lot of foreign revenue to the country. And with the given scenario, all these three areas are blocked to a great extent. So I'm sure here, when we are working as companies, we should not only look at building our company up, we should look as a team how we can build the country up together. So I'm thinking this is the role all the marketers will have to play, ethical marketing of how you are going to build the country up along with your company, right? So I think Shalin also clearly mentioned, it's not good to say this, there are positives in this because there's so many risks in lives, but there are so many areas where marketers could think new, right, which we will explain later in our remarks, and how we can come out of this situation. So this is what I have to say in my opening remarks. Thank you, and over to you, Professor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pradeep Edward. So you discuss about one of the interesting thing, the way we face everything as a very strong nation. One example for the civil war and all. And what to mention, as a company, we need to understand how we have to behave in an ethical way. And you discuss about the collaboration as a nation, not only by looking at the perspective of the companies, we have to always think about like how we collaborate each other, how we help each other. Even in China, I have seen another good example where, so if you have like employees with you, but if you are not having full capacity because of the demand and everything, so then you are going to like give some employees to other companies. That is all about the collaboration by looking at the particular way we are going to define the nation. So that of course something where you have to understand, especially in terms of marketers with the ethical responsibility. Then again, I want to introduce Alyna Haji Omar, the CEO, Wunderman Thompson. She will going to share her ideas with you. Yes, Alyna.
Talking away without unmuting. Yeah, hello.
Yes.
Hello, everybody. It's lovely to be here, and I'm hoping everybody can hear me now. I was just saying that it's been what, 8 weeks roughly that we've been living under these new normal sort of conditions. And I was thinking back, given the question was reflecting, I was thinking back on where our COVID-19 journey started for us at Wunderman Thompson. Wunderman Thompson is a part of the global giant WPP, and our processes and our planning for COVID readiness and business continuity started with the outbreak in China itself, much like Pradeep, like you were saying. And for us, by the time the end of January rolled in, processes were in play. How would we then essentially move what was an office-based system into work from home? Ensuring we had the right technology to keep us all connected, ensuring that each of our homes were equipped in the right way for all of us to be connected in this new process. That essentially, in looking back, was a really important part of how the first stages of being ready to continue under these circumstances came in. We planned, and while we absolutely planned for infrastructure and how to stay in touch with our clients and each other and keep our systems up and running, we also planned for emotional well-being. We are a people business. The agency in itself, and also in our connections with our clients, but more so also in terms of being able to understand how people consume and operate. We are wholly a people-based business, a people and ideas-based business. So for us, it was important to understand, starting with our own people, what were the emotional challenges that were going to roll in given these new circumstances. And what I mean by that is, while we have all of us working from home, we also have all of our children pretending. Sometimes, certainly, my kids haven't studied one bit, but trying to homeschool. We have partners who, husbands, wives, partners at home, able to operate in a situation where both parties are working from home. There is a new normal that took a little while for everybody to get used to. And in reflecting, I think really prioritizing that emotional well-being, taking those first three weeks essentially to make sure that we were communicating every day. We were learning on the go as to what was possible, what wasn't possible, understanding that each one's emotional threshold was different. And when you're asking someone to sit in a meeting and discuss, brand launches and brand plans and new strategies, while they're trying to understand how to look after children, while they're trying to run after the vegetable man and the malukara and trying to figure out if their deliveries were going to come in, all things that we had to learn how to operate within. And the fact was that we planned for it. The reason I'm stressing on this internal factor is because I'm echoing otherwise everything that Shalin and the rest of the panel have been speaking about. And I'm very clear about where brands and marketing is concerned. I'm nodding to everything everybody else has said. My perspective with people, and really appreciate that different people respond emotionally in different ways, and you have to harness all of that, keep a shared vision going. One thing I have learned in this process is there is no such thing as communicating under these circumstances. Daily catch-ups, whether it's a Microsoft Teams catch-up, whether it's on WhatsApp, calls that go out to people, keeping those channels of communication open for the internal team was really vital. And that has helped us stay on beat and up to speed with all of the work that has been happening over the last 8 weeks, essentially. And a lot of work has been happening. And thankfully, we haven't missed a beat in terms of delivery. The second part to that, since I'm talking about people, is our consumer and people, and people in the country and essentially people in the world. What we noticed at that time was that informal information sharing network just exploded. Right? So whether it was people putting together Viber and WhatsApp teams, whether it was groceries and deliveries, things that were being clubbed into groups in Facebook, that people, in the absence of organized information and in the absence of clarity where life was concerned, people were relying on each other for information. And for us as agencies, it was incredible to see what happened to our brands under that scrutiny. So before this, if we were talking about the emotional value of something, when people felt the challenges that they are feeling now, suddenly it was about, what is the value that you're giving back to me? Are you delivering? What is your new system of distribution? Are you able to offer better value for me? So quickly being able to shift that brand emotional story into really delivering value for people was key. And yes, I can save the rest of it for when we keep going, but those would have been my two key takeouts from reflecting back. Back to you, Professor.
Thank you very much, Alyna. It's very interesting. You discussed about something called the emotional well-being. That is very important for us to understand. And even if you are talking about this informal sharing network, so I think I have seen one of the article published recently. They have done a global survey by using 35,000 consumers. It's conducted by Cantor, found that the vast majority of your customers, prospects and community want to hear from their brands. So even though we are in the situation such as this, especially the vast majority, not only customers, your prospects and community, we are in the same study they mentioned with only 8% believing their brand should stop advertising, only 8%. So, but
Sure.
the challenge for us actually, what you clearly mentioned, the way the customers, they are having this informal sharing network, but anyway, we need to make that also as an opportunity. And this emotional well-being, I want to align with Dr. Nirmal, what he said with this chief mindshare officer. Something like, because we are talking about the different countries, so Sri Lankans, especially Asian countries, we are talking about the particular emotional behavior in the consumer. We are like, these are the things we can align with our requirements. So thank you very much all four experts in the panel. In the first session, you discussed about your own self-reflections. That is very important for us to understand, because we have to identify all of us are in the learning curve. So we are getting many post questions and all. That actually is one of the clear reflection. What sort of curiosity you have for the panel, for the forum and all. Our next session number 2 is very much interesting, where we are talking about what sort of opportunities being created, especially for post-COVID-19, and more importantly, what sort of priorities we have to give, because now we have some problem with budgets. In marketing, we are always talking about the conflict between finance people and the marketing people. But now we need to read this particular battle or the conflict in a different way. So we need to identify, as Dr. Pradeep Edward mentioned, we need to identify the collaborative way of doing as a nation. So in the session number 2, we will discuss about what are the opportunities we are in for the post-COVID-19, and what sort of priorities we are going to make, and what sort of issues we have in the future in the marketing budgets. So in this session, I would like to invite Dr. Pradeep Edward first to share his ideas.
Thank you, Professor. I think it's a very relevant question, and the most relevant question at the given moment, right? As usual, the marketers or who is heading marketing is being pushed to the wall, where I think normally whenever there is a crisis, the first thing that comes in, your marketing budgets are taken off, okay, and you are expected to deliver. Then your training budgets are taken off, and you are supposed to develop yourself. These are very normal things that happens, and it happens in the boardroom. But I think marketers have come a long way now, where they are really seen more of delivering the bottom line. Because if you take most of the marketing education programs, even conducted at SLIM, I think focuses a lot on marketers in their final assignments, or say on delivering the bottom line. A postgraduate diploma in marketing conducted at SLIM is a good example. Strategic brand management conducted at SLIM is a good example. And digital marketing, which we started with. I think SLIM has also been quite proactive in most of the programs that SLIM has launched, which will really help. And now, not only SLIM programs, even CIM, SEMA, or whoever, or educational institute, this is the best time for everyone to really see who are the real performers and how you can really practice what you have learned. Having any qualification under the belt, I'm sure, Professor, you'll agree, is pointless if you can't bring it to practice, right? And the practical scenario. Yeah. So now, actually, what the marketers should really do at the moment is something that the marketers always forget. Go back to research, because it's a different ball game altogether, right? It is not ideas, like a bomb has gone and, okay, then the security is laid out and we know what's happening. Here is a scenario where we don't know what's happening next. That is very clear. No one knows what is going to happen to the person next, right? So it's a very different scenario for the marketers to identify and not just fall into one. It's a typical Sri Lankan attitude when normally something happens. Yeah, it's really down. I don't know how we are going to come. I think even that type of unwanted negative thought should never go at this given moment. You have to go and do research of your own thing, first of all. Not go and get other researchers down and you think of, these people. This is another good time, because countries like America are struggling. Otherwise, what we will do is we'll first Google and see what America has done, or what Canada has done, or what China has done, right? This is a good chance for us to be original and for the marketers to be original. And I think, Professor Nalin, if anyone has read most of your articles, best time to get local, right? If this was you have been writing for the last 7 or 8 years, if someone has been reading, it's the ideal time to go. So what marketers should do right now is do the analytics correct, right? If talking about advertising, right, I think first thing is now everyone is calling and asking me also, should we go more on digital? Should we do this or that? I think it is time for you to identify where your slot or where your segment is actually. It's not going to be digital, it's not going to be the future as for me. It is going to play a huge role, but that doesn't mean the traditional ATL, BTL lines are going to collapse. These are important, right? Because you see, it is very important the marketers identify the 21 million population and where they are segmented, right? Out of the 21 million population, we have 7 million who are below 90, right? We have 3.2 million between 20 and 29. 30 to 39, we have about 3.1 million, right? And now here is the place where the marketers should say, where the purchasing power starts building. So these are the areas where the marketers should look of how they can get into these segments, right? 40 to 49, there is 2.3 million, and over 60, there is about 2.6 million. So there's a huge size there who are still not going to see. Our statistics might show, so many people, over 30 million using mobile phones with a 20 million, 1 million. These all are stats, but how many people are actually involved? There's a lot of data. You can see, these days, most of the thing you are adding more data because you're going online more. But you see online buying, what is the percentage still? I think till January, it was about 5 to 6% still. I'm just assuming it must have increased now, right? Professor Nalin, correct me if I'm wrong. So I think marketers should not, that's what I said, they should be very original, look at their case as a separate case, not copy anyone else, talk to their agencies, whoever is working, put the pressure on them as well, and make sure that you get your markers properly segmented. Because if you try to be shooting in the dark and do what others are doing, right, and stop just thinking, see, if you just go and spend all your money on online marketing and just totally forget traditional media, you're definitely going to lose about 5 or 6 million customers who are currently buying. And there is a lot of switching going on. See, people who are not addicted to something is getting addicted now, right? For me, if you take, it's very funny, right? I have started drinking Portello, which I never drunk before, right? Because you're locked down, you get into a new habit. So you might find these customers for FMCGs, there might be customers who have new customers who have switched, some customers who have gone out. So all your statistics will have to be relooked. I think that's spot on, like what we were just thinking before. The CMOs will have to really look at different angles, and also the job roles. People will have to come out of their comfort zone. I think the typical brand manager role of, making some artwork, sending some flyers. No, I don't think that is going to work anymore. You'll have to get into customer touch points more, right? See where we have to service the market and how we are going to communicate to that person. What is this person looking at? So I think the agencies will have a lot of work to do. And I'm sure the companies, after a month or two, when things recover, everything will be back to normal. And I think we will have to look at different mediums of how we are going to penetrate into, how we are going to allocate our relevant budgets and take the company and take the country forward. This is the best time again to get local talent, local companies coming up, SMEs coming up, right, and take our brands out of this country, right? This is the best time to regroup, come up as one nation. Good opportunity for marketers. Over to you, Professor.
Yes, Dr. Pradeep, thank you very much for the comments. You discussed about another interesting thing, research. Because now we need to understand the customer needs and wants. Even the same thing, I have read one of the articles, they discuss about something called anthromarketer. Because you need to be an anthropologist also. You need to see the customer not from the lens of a marketer, but from the lens of the human being. So there are certain local talent we have. We need to get the opportunities, and we need to understand what sort of opportunities we are having in the future and try to maximize. That is one of the thing. And as you clearly mentioned, there are many numbers can be seen. People are talking about whatever the numbers. How many of us get in the use of these numbers? So you clearly mentioned about these percentages and everything. But now time for us to start to work with the numbers, and we need to give some sense for the numbers. So numbers should work, and we need to align the numbers. We should get the numbers into work. So that is one of the important thing by understanding the segments. Thank you very much, Dr. Pradeep. Then I want to invite Alyna, Haji, Omar, for you to contribute something for these opportunities and what sort of marketing budget related issues we have. Over to you, madam.
Absolutely, I do it again. Yes, there's a lot of work for agencies to do, and you're right in that data and research must be our guiding light through this whole process. There is a lot of data out there. Making sense of it, understanding it, creating the right kind of the right kind of insight out of that is going to be the trick, really, to be able to unlock value going forward. To your point of Professor, were you saying what were the budgets? Was that your question as to whether we should continue allocating budget for marketing? Absolutely, because marketing tends to be, and advertising in a sense tends to be, the first cut in any challenging situation. But if I could just go back to something that Pradeep said, when you didn't have the Bevis, you switched to Portello, right? We are seeing this right across the board with everything, where all of our research before this would have said, I'm going to, do I trust the brand? Do I know the brand? Do I have any information around the brand? Now you're pretty much giving your and dropping pins to any vendor coming and selling anything, as long as you are able to, get it. Accessibility to the things that we need have become very important. And in that, sometimes this whole notion of do I trust, don't I trust, what do I know, what don't I know, has kind of gone out the window. However, but what I'm trying to come back to here is that is how fragile the ecosystem is when brands are operating under chances. I hope that we will be back to normal, as some of us have said, in the next month or two. My instinct is that we have to get used to a new normal and plan for a long road of reinventing and rethinking how we approach something. Because if we are in an ecosystem where what is top of mind is not your brand value and your equity, but what is top of mind is, can I get it or not? How accessible is it to me? We may not all be able to run, to go to Keels or to Cargills or to any one of those things. We may, going forward, have to try and understand what does accessibility to brands mean in a very local sense, in a more district provincial sense, in a national sense. Then if you are talking about top of mind being, how can I access something? Then the kind of investment you have to make, making sure that I am relevant on that aspect. Where can I get them? Reinventing my distribution system, reinventing how my product got to people. I saw something wonderful, those magic corn people. I saw it on Facebook just before I got into the day. Now, I can imagine Magic Corn has a particular method that they used to work in. I've seen all those vending shops when you get the corn in your cup. What they've started doing now is do like a do-it-yourself sort of kit and they're selling the kit. So you've got to boil your own corn, you've got to put your own sauce in, make it all up, do the whole thing. we're all innovating. Shalin's told us plenty about, the whole do-it-yourself kind of facial at home and all of that. So the point there is, as we've moved in from the infection period, where all of us were panicking and wondering what to do and trying to figure out how to survive, and then we've moved into this isolation period where it's all about, okay, now I'm bored. I'm trying to get back on my feet again. I'm trying to figure out how to navigate through this whole process. In every stage, we've had to be relevant and top of mind with our customers in a new way. So the point being that keep your eye on what is happening. Different people will be experiencing normal in different ways. Let's take the beauty segment, for instance, which is a segment that we are so heavily invested in our agency. So a huge bulk of our audience are the ladies that work at all of our apparel, the companies and all the factories. And now, suddenly their normal looks very different. What does normal look like for everybody working in tourism and in all the various levels of tourism? So what I'm trying to say is a beauty brand or a personal care brand that thought in one way needs to now reinvest in trying to understand how it stays top of mind and relevant to people within their new normal. So absolutely invest, but we'll be in different ways, and how we do that will be led heavily by data, by research, and by real inventive thinking. Back to you, Professor.
Yes, Alyna, it's very interesting. Again, we are talking about the same thing, like we need to invest more money for research, and more importantly, even though we are having this particular situation, we need to stick to the particular budgets in marketing. You are talking about, interestingly, this top of mind. That is very important for us to understand the particular taste, needs and wants of the customer and the preferences of the customer. Thank you very much for your comments. Then Dr. Nirmal, so you can make your contribution.
Right, Professor. So thank you very much. I echo the sentiments made by Pradeep and Alyna both. So let's be brutally honest here. Whether you like it or not, companies have been adopting only one of two strategies. You either cut and chop or sustain and persevere when it comes to marketing budgets. So that has been the approach that most of the companies have been taking. Now, before we go into the opportunities, and I am talking about the opportunities for marketers, and not from an industry specific angle, which we can cover in the last section, but what are the opportunities for marketers? I'd like to take a few words that were shared here. Pradeep talked about being original. I would like to add a little bit more and say that marketers now need to be more authentic than what they were ever before. It's very important, irrespective of which type of industry you're operating in. And we talked about emotions here, Professor. Now, the role of brand manager, in my perspective and my new lingo, they need to be a brand protector, because your consumers are sensitive. Kantar's recent research called the Barometer of COVID-19 talks about brand loyalty coming down in Sri Lanka amidst the region. Now, if you look at COVID-19 scenario, when you wanted some butter, you actually did not seek for Anchor butter or Highland butter. You took whatever butter you wanted. Similarly, if you wanted toothpaste during COVID-19 and lockdown, it could have been Signal or Colgate or maybe Supriviki. And if you wanted lingerie for whatever matter, you knew secrets more than Victoria ever did in terms of what you wanted as a brand. And so the loyalty part is definitely going to be challenged here. Now, the role that marketers have is that they can't just go on a social media strategy or social media campaign without a real story, concept and a strategy. Because one bad mistake means that your brand, maybe 15, 20 years of reputation, will go down as fast as hell. The reason being, people are sensitive. There is a little bit of anger involved. and the customers have a no-nonsense, non-forgiving type of approach at this point of time. So what you communicate to your customers is extremely critical. And let's look at the opportunities that marketers have. Firstly, marketers can and should now embrace technology. Now, this doesn't mean that they can conveniently outsource digital marketing activities and so forth, but they need to embrace technology and incorporate that within the organization. Number two, marketers have a unique opportunity to get involved in the entire business and start adding value. In Sri Lanka in particular, marketing has been very functional. They are only worried about their budget, their customer, and their job role. They don't understand at times what's happening at operations. They don't understand at times what's happening from a financial perspective. So now it's a time for marketers, if they are to be relevant, and again being brutally honest, if they want to have their job, retain their job, they need to get involved in the business and start adding value. Walking the talk is very, very important. It's amazing how certain brand managers and marketers portray one thing for their particular brand in terms of consumer insight, but when they go as customers or consumers, they have a different psychology altogether. And they've been very dependent on the brand. So everything revolves around the brand. So it's very critical. So the second opportunity is to get totally involved in the business. The third opportunity is that marketers need to leave their ego aside. Some of those traditional marketers might get upset with me, but the reality is that all of us at marketers sometimes have a bit of ego. What worked well for us, our success stories, our brand, our awards that we have won, etc. However, the reality is that we need to leave the ego aside and now look at partnerships and collaborations. Without partnerships and collaborations and looking at the overall industry perspective, you may lose out. Nevertheless, even if your organization is geared with your customer. So partnerships and collaborations are the way forward. I'll take a quick example on a recent piece of article that I wrote. We have so many kitchens now going to be available because tourism is taken a severe hit. Restaurants are having challenges because of physical distancing, social distancing norms, and the health and safety requirements. So instead of running your own kitchen, what about looking at a kitchen as a service, just like software as a service, where they collaborate with a hotel or another restaurant, use their kitchen and pay them a particular fee for that particular order or something. Those are some of the models that marketers need to start thinking about on the collaboration, because you can't weather the storm by yourself, and that's absolutely crucial. So if I'm to repeat, the three unique opportunities that we have is embrace technology, partnerships and collaboration, which is extremely critical from that point of view. And lastly, I think now is a unique opportunity for marketers to do scenario planning. Marketing planning is good, but without having proper scenario planning, because we don't know what's happening in the world out there, consumer lifestyles have changed, the demand patterns have changed, there is a possibility that they will not look into indulgences. So if you're FMCG marketer in particular, you will definitely need to do some scenario planning so that you can align your marketing strategy in the real world. Over to you, Professor.
Yes, Dr. Nirmal, I feel now we are getting the momentum in our discussion. Yeah, where you discussed about one of the important things, like what sort of innovations, technical factors we need to consider. And we are talking about the partnership and collaboration. That is very much important. And thirdly, and more interestingly, you discuss about something called scenario planning. Now, because unexpected happens, then we need to have a kind of a contingency plans. So how we are going to deal in with the customers, what sort of requirements we should have to deal with the customers, where you need to have certain people in the organization, especially in the top management, they have some sense, not only about the subjects like management, marketing or finance, some business sense. So how you read the environment. So how you are going to read the particular global environment, and more importantly, how you can align with the requirements you have in the environment, and how you align with your competencies and resources. And most of the time, not only if you know, you need to understand this particular alignment, you need to have sort of a reading about the civilization of the country, and so sort of what sort of things you can read about this Polonnaruwa, Sigiriya, because that sort of a formula or the essence you need to have, especially in the future, if you are really talking about the particular role of the marketing manager, even in finance also, you need to see the things with the holistic perspective. That is one of the challenge. So scenario planning, to have a scenario planning, not only you have to read something by your own, you have to read the environment. So that is very important. Thank you very much, Dr. Nirmal. Then, so over to you, Shalin, to contribute more for the opportunities and how this market budget related issues you are going to face. Yes, Shalin.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Can everyone hear me now? Yes. Sorry.
Yes.
So coming,
Yes.
Being a marketer myself, I don't believe marketing budget should be cut at all, or definitely not the first thing to be cut, for sure. In a situation like this, when there's so much uncertainty, and it's about brands getting out there, it's about engaging with your customers, it's about engaging with your clientele in different ways. You might have to do quite the opposite and increase your marketing budgets. But what we need to do, like we do with everything else, is get a little more efficient. And understand, okay, where is your consumer now, and where are they consuming their information, right? So if we had a marketing budget which broke down TV, radio, press, and the ATL, BTL, that kind of thing, and you had a formula, that does not mean that formula holds, right? So having the marketing budget and the way you're splitting it is two different things. Yes, don't cut your marketing budget, but use it more efficiently by understanding where your consumer is absorbing a lot of their information. Now, Pradeep, I'm going to disagree a little bit with you from your statements about the online selling. Why are we focusing so much on online when we have such a small proportion of online selling? I get what you're saying, but what I think you will see, or what we are already seeing now, is customers who are never an online customer is being pushed to go online because of this. People who are uncomfortable shopping online is shopping online because of this, right? And as time goes on, even after things open up, they're going to be now an online customer who's far more happy or convenient or content shopping online. Yes, there'll be people who go back, but there will be a lot of industries that embraces online, and a lot of customers that embrace online out of sheer necessity, but then find it to be comfortable, right? So as brands, we need to keep an eye on that and understand that, okay, if on one side, on the marketing side, where are they consuming their information, right? So I've seen the reports that there's a lot of TV viewership that's gone up. Yeah, so great. So in the more mass market, TV viewership has gone up. Now we've been looking at what's happening in more niche markets like us, where in the higher end brands that our company handles. That customer is not watching free-to-air TV. They're streaming. They're on their Netflix and so on, where there is not so much access to advertising there, right? So where do we need to end up getting them? We have to get them where they're consuming their other information. Newspapers are not coming to the door anymore. They're newspapers on their phone. A lot of them, if you ask the people where they're consuming their news, it's on their phone as well. So how are we using these channels adequately at a time like this, and how are we using our budgets to channel or to use these channels the best we can, is something we need to think about, right? Also, is our content fit for these channels? If we were a company doing tons of press ads and TV ads, just resizing them and sticking them online doesn't work. We need to know, are they mobile optimized? When someone sees your ad, whether video or audio or if it's just even imagery, does it work online? How do people interact? Does it work? So it's a lot of, it's happened quite fast, but we need to figure out, okay, where are people consuming their information? Is our content fit for that stream? Is our content fit for that channel? that is when we are going to get more bang for our buck. That is when we are going to get more out of advertising money, and that is when the efficiencies are going to come. So we need to open our eyes to that. With also, I'll just touch on exports because we are an export brand as well. Recently, a government organization called me and said, "Hey, we are finding it difficult to sell as a nation. We are finding it difficult because the market's all closed up. Can we all get together and export stuff?" And I said, yes, but what are we going to export? No, let's all get together and export to countries that are open. It's not as simple as that, is it? If you can export to countries that are open, they were open all this time. Why didn't we export then, right? So remember that we are living in a world where Nirmal brought up authenticity. They do want authentic products. They do want transparency in their brands. So if you want to export something to the country, you have to have a story to tell. You have to bring something of value. Just because that country is open and we can export it, they're not going to take it. So we need to start looking at our export markets and saying, okay, these are the openings we have. These are the openings that we can tap into through what we have. And therefore, let's go out and shoot for that. And that will be, again, a more useful usage of our resources and time, and will end up more fruitful, I believe. Over to you, Professor.
Okay, Shalin. Yes, it's a kind of an interesting remarks because so you made these formulas, but whatever the formulas, as you clearly mentioned, you use, you need to have a sense. So you have different algorithms, you have different logic, but you need to identify the requirements. And here you mentioned one of the important thing, you need to have some stories to be built up. By looking at the market, it doesn't say merely you can go to the market. You have to identify the particular potentials. Then again, what sort of legal requirements you should have for the market. Then only you need to have sort of a story building. So I know in one of the US destination, they put a nice theme called "I left my heart in California." But still in Sri Lanka, in Sigiriya, we don't have any theme like "I left my heart in Sigiriya." Something like that. So story, building up some stories, themes are very much essential, especially in terms of destination marketing. Actually, whatever the points you made is very much valid. I really appreciate, Shalin. Thank you very much. So that is the end of the session 2, where we discuss about the marketing budget and budget related issues, and more importantly, the particular opportunities in the post-COVID-19. In the session 3, actually, we are going to discuss about the prediction for the future. And here in Sri Lanka, we are always believing, most of the people, sometimes they like to believe astrologers. But here we are not talking about this so-called astrology, predictions from the experts in the panel with their own experiences and all. And more importantly, what are the critical success factors and boardroom influence? That is very important. So we are going to start with Alyna. Yes, Alyna. So you can just contribute.
Right. Can everybody hear me? Yes. I think that the future could be very exciting, provided that we put a few things, prioritize a few things, and put a few things in order. We cannot sometimes simply be led by energy and emotion and we are a wonderful nation like that, kohoma hari karamu kind of attitude. Sometimes though, I think that a little more time spent in strategic conversation. Yeah, our industry is going to strategically then relook at where opportunity is coming from. Where are the strategic markets that we're going to build? For domestic brands that are targeting only domestic audiences, our buying power is challenged now, right? We are selling a lot of things to a very few people. How are you now going to reinvent going forward? Wonderful businesses and incredible mega brands have grown out of terrible situations and various things. But the point is that we do need to shift our focus to being strategic about problem solving, collaborating more strategically, identifying what some of our long-term issues are going to be. Professor, you spoke about strategic destination marketing and all of that. We began that journey with Sri Lanka in 2018 and on to 2019. The point now is to commit to some of those strategies, to understand now how those strategies and various things have to adapt to the new normal, and to really take in. I often am in many conversations where we talk about Sri Lanka and our Sri Lankanness as something unique and something wonderful, which it really is. But we are also global citizens. And for anybody that was caught unawares by COVID-19, then the signs were everywhere. We should have seen it coming, right? So going forward, maybe what we have to do is think strategic, think collaboration, but strategic collaboration. Believe in technology and data. It is a data world. If technology, while items of traditional media and everything else and new touch points even will exist, mobile, digital, various other technology advances, we are living that tipping point. If it was going to, if some of us thought that it was in the near to distant future, it is here now. Simply, and I agree with everything Shalin has said. It has been almost like this fast-tracked sort of tipping point where everybody has tried something, and then a lot of that will continue to stay, simply because we will be facing some of these challenges for a little while longer, I think. Moving forward, while we do have to dig deep and really, this is a moment for our trademark Sri Lankan resilience to shine through marketing, to shine through every aspect of life here. I think we can't underestimate that we are linked to other markets. We are linked to the world. The best thing right now is to learn from each other, learn from different markets. We are lucky. We are at this point of the infection cycle, but because we could have learned and watched what happened in the Far East a lot sooner than it happened here. So similarly, you will see industry recover at different paces. For things like the restaurant industry, which you would have thought would have been one of the the furthest points out as far as restarting was concerned. Seen wonderful examples from Europe already of outdoor dining reinvented and new ways in which people can come together to dine out, and how restaurants and various things have evolved. So my focus going forward is to continue to adapt. Information changes daily. How people are feeling will change daily. Your market realities will change daily and weekly. Commit to really staying on top of that. Commit to identifying the right technology and the right partners and the right innovators to help you really build on that and take advantage of that. And continue to innovate. Continue to innovate across the board. Right now, while I agree, authenticity is so important, we are no longer just selling origin stories, and we are no longer just telling the story of the essence or the emotional value of a brand. We are selling many other factors, and I think really adapt to that, commit to that, and keep then consistently deliver that, but consistently adapt, consistently go back to the drawing board. I had a wonderful phrase the other day when somebody said, right now, under these circumstances, we are all startups. And that's a fantastic way to look at this. Irrespective, our company is over 150 years old. Irrespective of whether you're a 150-year-old company or a company that is a month old, we're all startups in this new environment. We all have new challenges, and we to all approach this in a completely new and dynamic and authentic way. Nalin, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Alyna. You discussed about something very importantly, the strategic conversation that should be there. And even by looking at this particular session, I think we are talking about the prediction for the future. The same session we can align with some questions being asked. So there are certain questions also being asked aligned with the session. So what we can do by looking at that requirement also, we can have a kind of a good proper time management. Dr. Nirmal, one of our audience, he is asking about one interesting question that is aligned with our session of identify prediction for the future. So the Chaminder Hemal, he asked a question. Dr. Nirmal, do you advise marketers to focus more on innovating at the business model? So that is a question.
Right. So first and foremost, Professor Nalin, on a lighter note, you were talking about astrologers. I think in Sri Lanka, the astrologers are some of the best marketers that you could get. They do a wonderful job. You can learn a lot from them. That was more on a lighter note. I think before business model innovation, I think we need to really relook at our business models. Look at whether it's relevant, whether it is adaptable to the future requirements, and make the necessary changes quickly. Of course, innovation can happen in any part of the value chain. Now, in my opinion, businesses don't usually fail, but the business model is what fails more often than not. So I think that's where we need to focus on more or less. Two concerns that I have as a result of this pandemic is that when I speak to marketers, I get a feeling that more than COVID-19, we are suffering from two other pandemics. One pandemic is what I call the relative marketing. So whichever brand manager, whichever agency tells you, you go with the flow and try to adapt your strategy. That's a huge pandemic than COVID-19 because you're risking your entire business model, your marketing budget, strategic thinking by following something without a basis and without understanding your customer. The second pandemic that we are facing is what I call the Gedare marketing, also ran type of marketing. So you're happy to be there in the digital presence, you're happy to be there in mainstream, but there is no real strategy behind it. You're just ticking the numbers and ensuring your boss pays you a salary because you've done your work. Now, these two needs to be really looked into, and from a marketer's toolkit perspective, they would need to really look at it. End of the day, as I mentioned earlier, it's about value. If you can't add value to your customer, you'll have a problem. I talked about cinemas, and just taking a cue of what Alyna was mentioning before, in Europe and in US now, they've started drive-through cinemas. They have drive-through churches, masses happening. So if the buyer behavior is moving towards that and your business model is not adaptable, no matter what innovation you come in from the product or the process perspective, you will not be able to capture the opportunity. And the other area that I want to speak on that tone is that marketers need to not only look at a gap in the market, but they need to start validating their assumptions. Most of the time, our assumptions have been based on what was before. In the new normal, you need to start challenging each and every assumption that you make. And that's where insights and collaborations, everything comes into place. The other area that I want to touch in very briefly is that when marketers are looking at opportunities now, I agree with you, buy local, think local, sell local will help a lot of Sri Lankan companies if they really identify the model to capitalize. But if you are a brand manager or a marketing manager of a multinational company, that doesn't mean that your business is going to go down. Now is your opportunity to become a bit more local. Forget about getting some creatives from Singapore or UK or US and trying to slightly modify it in Sri Lanka. Be more authentic in your communications. Tell your story, but do not overpower it with unnecessary content. So as I mentioned before, your marketing toolkit really needs to be looked into. Now I run a real estate advisory company, and real estate is one of the, in the short to medium term, worst hit entities. And what we've done in our organization is that we've already over the last 3 weeks looked at it, invested in it on virtual reality and augmented reality from a technological perspective to show our clients of future properties, what is possible, how they can change the interior. It's not a new concept. It's just that we've been too late because of absolute lethargy. On the other hand, if you were in that typical below the line scenario of handing over flyers, you won't be able to do that in the short to medium term with physical distancing related issues. So what type of tools in marketing are you going to use? So I think that typically covers the question, I think, Professor Nalin, over to you.
Yes, Dr. Nirmal, you discuss about this more authentic and storytelling based. That is one of the important requirement. So thank you very much for your idea. Then Shalin, there is one of the interesting question asked by one of the participant, Adam Hussein. He is asking a good question from something very much related to current situation. He's asking something on, is it good to launch a startup at this time? As a kind of expert in the particular area, what is your idea, Shalin?
Look, launching, this is in times like this, if your idea is great, this could be the perfect time. Startups that would have never worked before are going to work now. Startups are always about the idea and getting right people around it and then launching it. Right? I mean, Nirmal is a startup expert. He'll probably add to this as well. So, well, it all depends on what your startup is. If your startup is something that has to do with the large groups gathering, don't even think about it. But there are so many unique propositions out there now. There are so many unique situations that the companies in the market today can't handle. So if you've got a unique idea to come and start handling the new problems, or as everyone's calling it, the new normal, by all means. I mean, there should be more and more guys, smart guys out there, light bulbs going off and say, hey, there's a need now. Let's go. Let's start something up and get to this need. Now, if you look at a lot what happened during the lockdown period, there are a lot of companies who went in and started their own digital platforms and got other companies onto it. Orange Electric has their own digital platform. Abans is doing a delivery service. And these guys are repurposing their staff to do things like that. Now, I had like easily 4 companies that were never in the delivery business or the online business set up platforms because you can do that quite fast, and they've got going. Will all of them last as this goes on? Probably not. But at this time, they're repurposing their staff, using their resources. They've seen opportunity and doing well. There are a lot of guys, app developers, tech guys who've got really fast, gone to people and started developing apps for them, even very simple things, just to get things moving in this lockdown situation. Imagine the people providing resources to work from home. There was this interesting meme being thrown around the internet. What was the biggest push for your online transformation? So there were 3 other things, and one was COVID-19, and that unfortunately was true. Now, even our company, we didn't have work from home at all, but we are realizing that there are parts of our company that can function beautifully working from home, and they're becoming far more productive as well. So we are learning a lot about ourselves as a human race, as a country, as companies, right? We're learning a lot. And when people start learning a lot and discovering new things about themselves, that's a really good time for people to put their hand up and say, you know what, I can service your need. So if you have a great startup idea, Adam, I think, by all means, come out and make it happen.
Okay. So thank you very much, Shalin. Thank you very much for your observation. So this is the best time for you to start something by your own. So opportunity has been created. Then again, there is one of the question from Dr. Pradeep Edward. Now we are talking about how much we are responsible towards the society. That's also a very important part. So you do something to the customer, so you need to be like something different. So as a national body, we are talking about Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing. So by looking at the current situation, COVID-19, is there any CSR activities already been done by Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing?
Yeah, good question. But before that, I should clarify something that Shalin said. I think what I meant was what Nirmal was just saying, relevant marketing. Don't get caught into that, because digital marketing, and that is very important. That is the trend now. You know, we have to do it. Only thing is, whatever this thing is, the marketers should do their research and look at their numbers before they launch, not copy what the others are doing. So that's what I mean, because if you really take the stats in January to stats in May will be totally different of credit card purchases through online transactions. So that's what, but I'm 100% with switching to online. Things will go there, because if you really look, the top 10 industries currently going also right now is the e-learning, right, which is on online platform. Medical products, again, delivery services, like we see Roots delivering fruits now, right? Then in-home entertainment, online gaming industry, right? Online dating is also happening, right? So there's a lot of things happening. Supermarket industry is going online, right? And also the cleaning services, everything. So I think this is the ideal time to go online. But what I'm saying is, again, I must emphasize on this: marketers should do their research before they select the platform. So that is the point that I want to this thing in. So yeah, like yeah, Professor Nalin, talking about what Slim, I think Slim is always very proactive when it comes to any crisis in the country. We have seen that. And again, I must say, the Slim Council of Management and the new president, Mr. Roshan Fernando, was appointed recently. Again, amidst this COVID rush, they have started the operation. And first of all, we saw them handing over donation to the government on being a non-profitable organization. I'm sure really appreciated. And also, more than that, it was more interesting where they say they are here to talk to people, do counseling, go into the SMEs. So again, Roshan is a person who is very passionate about the SME industry. He was instrumental as the vice president to even bring in SME awards category into brand excellence. So I think at the given moment, Slim is having a very power-packed council, which can really deliver good results for the country, because Roshan Fernando will definitely give the guidance as the president. And again, when you take the vice president's Nuwan Gamage, you know, he's a digital marketing specialist and expert, launched the Digital Marketing Awards in Sri Lanka. So I think those all will contribute for the nation if you can get the expertise from these gentlemen. Other vice president is Tilanka Abeysekera, working for Microsoft, multinational background. So I think Slim has the very good expertise at this given moment to serve the nation and to add a lot of inputs to the country. So I think Slim also should be more go forward and lobby, meet the government more, try to get their point through, and to help especially the SME industry. I'm sure Nirmal is a person who really works on this, and Professor Nalin, a person like you. I think academics like you guys, definitely the contribution both of you are doing is immense. I think I see Nirmal's talking to a lot of youngsters at the moment, and, you know, spending a lot of time. Then Professor Nalin in a different way in the university. I think this is the type of thing, you all are the type of people also who can contribute to Slim in this exercise. And there's so many other people at Slim, maybe not only the past presidents, like, you know, so many, we have a good panel of lecturers, right, who can definitely contribute. And I'm sure at a moment like this, Slim can contribute immensely, maybe free of charge for most of the SMEs and startup companies to come up. And going forward, Professor Nalin, I think another most important thing is at the given moment for the country, it is very important that we look at the correct individuals in the relevant advisory boards to make sure that it goes forward. Because otherwise it will be like blind leading the blind, it might go in a different direction. This is not only, especially all government, private, whatever business you're in, I think this is something that we really have to look at. Because if we go, otherwise we'll be shooting in the dark and we might go into worse disaster. So I think bring up your old identity, bring new ideas, get support from institutes like Slim, right, who can bring a lot of people to help. So I think this is a great time that the entire country could get the National Institute of Marketing, who is celebrating 50 years, into play and get a big service from them. So it's a good opportunity. Over to you, Professor.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Pradeep Edward. So thank you very much for your comments and all, because as you clearly mentioned, so there are certain opportunities being created. We have to grab the opportunities. So we already in the final session in the entire webinar, where we have some concluding remarks. So shall we start with Dr. Nirmal? Yes, Dr. Nirmal.
Yeah, Professor. So I think from my perspective, we discussed some interesting factors today. Unfortunately, time is not on our side to cover most of the other areas. I would like to touch a little bit on what Pradeep mentioned now. I think now is the time for marketers to really drive a cause. Impact-driven marketing is what I would like to call it. The reason being is that majority of our clients, the stakeholders and the wider community is interested in companies creating impact, no more just making profits. So whatever you do from a marketing perspective, wise adding value, bringing innovation, we need to be able to drive positive impact. And now is the time for marketers to really rise up, show their true potential and practice what they've learned, practice what they know from networks as well as other collaborations. It's extremely crucial. As you know, Professor, COVID-19 has no color, race, religion, right? It has impacted all of us, whether it's a small company or a large organization. Similarly, whichever political affiliation you may have is also not relevant when it comes to COVID-19 and the future. So at this point of time, I have a humble plea towards the fellow Sri Lankans. This is the time that we need to be more responsible. We need to work as one nation. We need to have one dream. There is no opportunity for myopic or selfish thinking. Racial disharmony is not going to take us anywhere. Diversity is our biggest strength in this country. Let me repeat, diversity is our biggest strength. And working together will be our recipe for success. And as you can see in the background, I would say Sri Lanka can, Pugudumu or Nagitamu Sri Lanka. And finally, marketing has always rocked. So keep rocking your organizations and do the best of it. I wish fellow Sri Lankans all the best. And in this Vesak period, may you be enlightened with the teachings of Lord Buddha and live your life in a manner that you can create positive impact to this world. I won, and thank you very much for inviting me.
So thank you very much, Nirmal. Then it's over to you, Shalin, for your remarks.
You're on mute.
There you go. In closing, I'll just share something my brother keeps telling me. He's also the co-founder, and we work together. Almost telling our whole staff almost every day is that, look, the human race is a very resilient race. We are a very intelligent race, and we will get through this. We are going to figure out how to get through this. We're going to get over this, and we are going to go to do bigger and better things. So if this is getting you down, tell yourself that we will come through this. Furthermore, being Sri Lankans, we are a very resilient country as well. We're a very resilient nation. Yes, diversity is our strength, and together we will rise from this. So be positive and work towards it. There's a difference in being positive and just sitting and doing nothing, and being positive and working towards it. So let's be positive and work towards it. Also, something we need to do is keep our ears and eyes open to the people around us. Through this, in the short to medium term, there is going to be economic struggle. There are going to be people who need your help. They could be in your workplace, they could be in your family, they could be in your neighborhood. Share what you have, help people out, because bad times come and go, but we can, like you said, we'll get over it. But in the meantime, we need to be human, we need to be sharing, we need to be a people that work together. And so keep your eyes and ears open. And the other thing, like what Pradeep said, there are a lot of, on a more marketing professional sense, there are a lot of resources out there. Slim is putting their hand up and saying, come, we'll help you out. I'm going to put my hand up as well. I've been doing that on my social media feed, saying any startups, if any young companies need some input from me, I'm happy to spend some time talking to you guys. Reach out on my social media feed. Instagram is the best. Just DM me anything you want to know, and I'll try to help you to the most I can. I'm sure a lot of the others will do the same. We need to help each other out. One or two companies getting out of this is not going to work. For this economy to come up, everyone needs to rise. So let's work together. Let's get this done for Sri Lanka. Let's get this done for the world. Thank you. And thank you, Slim, for having me. And thank you to my everyone on the panel. It's been a very interesting exchange of ideas. And I think we've given some value to the people listening. So thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Shalin, for your ideas and all. And then I would like to invite Dr. Pradeep Edward for his remarks.
Yeah, so final message to all Sri Lankans or anyone watching right now. I think it is time for all companies, all businesses to relook at your budgets, reforecast, because otherwise you'll be shooting on unwanted targets if you try to look at the targets you set at the beginning of this year. It's very important because it's very important to keep your staff motivated. So have realistic targets, reforecast. Maintain transparency with all your stakeholders. I think it's one of the best opportunities for all companies to maintain transparency and say what's happening. I think people will be very interested to know what's happening, right? So that's a good opportunity, right? It's a time also to celebrate every small victory coming out of it. Same thing we did during the tsunami or East attacks, right? Because here we were talking about marketing. Now it's very important that our staff is motivated, right? Of all companies, the country is motivated. So I think anything is done, just not to say it's a small thing done, it's something big done, right? So make sure that everyone is given a pat on the back, right? And appreciated for the work done, right? And also cost rationalizing is very important. That's by making people understand, right? I'm sure any company can't, just because they want to motivate staff, they can't do everything the way they did before. So making the stakeholders understand and rationalizing cost, then using words like, we are going to have a cost cutting or some drastic thing which will put morals down. I think it's very important that entrepreneurs and business people or big companies make sure that they use their words properly at this given moment, because everyone doesn't understand the language in the same way. So that all the 21 million people in this country are motivated. That is very important. And also look at sensible diversifying, and only if it's required. There again, don't go with the rel. If it is required, it is important that your businesses diversify, because like I said before, the people in the tourism industry, right, and who are into the exports, they will need to do some diversification at least to sustain the organizations at a given moment, right? Then we have the foreign workers who have come back. They will be also very frustrated without jobs, and we are still some of the government is doing a lot of efforts to get them down. But I think these are areas that we will have to regroup and stand. So once more, I think it is very important that I think Nirmal very spot on said, like negative Sri Lanka, I think is very important. We have done it before. I think we will be the first country to come out of this. Looking at our background and what we have gone through in the last 20 years, we have had always leadership that has brought us out of danger. So I'm sure self-motivated individuals has to come in front and make sure that things happen. So I think we will be one of the countries to come out of this first, and I'm very confident of it after what has happened. Last East attacks is the best. So supermarkets will be full again, cinemas will be full again, but first let's all hope and pray that COVID gets out of the way and that medication gets a solution soon, because actually that's what in this Vesak day that we have to ask. And I'm sure this country is a blessed country, and I'm sure all gods looking on this country will make sure that this country prospers. So once more, I really take this opportunity to thank the President and the Executive Committee members of SLIM for inviting all of us here today, the CEO Sanat Senanayaka and Chamil and his team, dynamic team, for organizing this beautifully with a lot of coordination and with a lot of professionalism. Thank you very much. And Nirmal, thank you very much for the brilliant coordination and things done from your side. And Professor Nalin, I think you were a great host, and having a professional like you in our panel as the moderator. It was a good experience, and thank you very much. And all the panelists, thank you very much. It was very nice working and with you all the past few days in our discussions how we should come online and do things. So I think I'm sure Sri Lanka will win again, and we will win very soon. So as a team, as one country, as one nation, let's make Sri Lanka proud and let's make it happen. Thank you. Over to you, Professor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pradeep. Yes, as a nation, we can do that. That is one of the things we need to communicate. So now at the moment, I would like to invite Alyna for her comments, for the concluding remarks.
Thank you. So, you know, it's difficult to come at the end of such eloquent and wonderful remarks. So I'm going to keep it short and share a favorite quote of mine, which pretty much goes like this. What if I fail? But oh my darling, what if you fly? I think right now, and in general, sometimes our attitude towards failure can be what really, shoots a hole in our own plans. As people, as strong, proud, wonderful Sri Lankans, we now more than ever, we need to trust our future into our own hands, make our plans, work together, collaborate, keep ourselves informed, investing in knowing the truth about something, invest in the right information, the right data, make the right kind of plans. But all of this can only be made stronger if our attitude towards failure is reevaluated a little bit. Sometimes I hear too many people, whether it is clients, whether it's students, whether it's people in our own organizations, worrying about failure. My only point here is we're going into uncharted waters. This is a new future that not just we in Sri Lanka, people everywhere are faced with. It is up to us this time round, not perhaps to rely on bosses and governments and other external forces only, but to rely on our own energies, to rely on our own convictions, and certainly our own sense of innovation to help drive a new future for us. But all of that can only start if we start re-evaluating how we approach the notion of failure, because too many of us are debilitated at the thought of failing, and that at this point is not what's going to serve us well. So go out there, take well-informed risks. And I'm not suggesting that all of us go out and do whatever we feel like just because we're feeling brave, but certainly take well-informed risks. We have in our hands, we have access to more education and more information than ever before. Go out there and make use of every single one of the free courses that the likes of every incredible organization is putting forth. Even pay for the right kind of education that you might want to equip yourself with to be able to take new ideas forward. And for us in our own business, we trust creativity. And in this case, creativity can come in the form of a story, it can come in the form of reinventing how someone approaches a touch point. It can come in the form of reinventing how we solve problems. Trust creativity to take us forward. And that's a little longer than I thought, but those are my closing remarks, Nalin.
Thank you very much, Alyna. That is very important thing, because even Albert Einstein also mentioned the imagination is more important than knowledge. So creativity and imagination is very much important. So actually today itself, in the entire webinar, we have learned a lot, because now as a country we are in the learning curve, where there are certain opportunities, what we mentioned, strategic window, a temporary time period, there is an opportunity being created for the country. As a nation, we will try to grab the opportunity. So as a moderator, I should thanks for the expert panel, Dr. Nirmal De Silva, Shalin Balasuriya, Alyna, Omar, and Dr. Pradeep Edward. And also, more interestingly, we are having a very wonderful audience. We get more than 40 plus questions. So there are certain very interesting questions. Unfortunately, because of the time framework only, we could not answer. Thank you very much for the audience. And finally, we should thanks for the President of Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing, Council and ESCO, together with membership team, Sanat, Chamil and Mewan. So thank you all of them. And there is a small message for all participants. After this webinar, you will get a small feedback form. Please try to fill the feedback form. That is very important, because even the Pradeep also discussed about the research is very important. So we need to understand the different preferences, taste of the customers. Your requirements are very much important. So thank you very much. Have a pleasant weekend. See you everyone.